Welcome everyone to a very unique match that is held in Katowice, Poland between the world champion Domaraju Gukesh and the FIDE World Cup winner and Polish number one Jan Krzysztof Duda. Gukesh and Duda are going to play 6 games of 3 plus 2 against each other, and a winner would be found from these 6 games. Well, it's for fun, perhaps. It's an exhibition match, but also whenever Gukesh is playing, there's a lot at stake. And we are off knight f3, knight f6, c4, d6 played by Duda, d4. The knight comes to d7. Jan Krzysztof going for the old Indian defense. Now, this is considered to be slightly more passive than the King's Indian because the bishop is on e7 and not on g6, bishop g7. But Gukesh playing super quickly. He pushes his pawn to d5. He's looking super confident. The e4 pawn is under attack. The bishop drops back and he's defending the e4 pawn. a5 played. Now remember, both of them are not just two world-class players but also have a small history with each other. When Gukesh was preparing for his world championship match, Duda was his sparring partner and they actually played well over 300 games with each other in the year 2024. So that's the reason why I'm pretty sure they know each other's style also quite well. And now Gukesh taking a bit of a think after the bishop goes back. Should he go super aggressive with g4? That does weaken the f4 square. And Duda has chosen this opening which is kind of modest but has gotten a pretty decent position. I think one idea here is to go b3, a3 and b4. That's a good way to play and expand on the queen side, but Gukesh goes for g3. It's a slightly offbeat move, one must say, because he wants to transfer his bishop to g2, and in doing so he's now 30 seconds behind on the clock as compared to Duda. Jan Krzysztof plays his queen to c7. Bishop comes up to g2. Let's see what Black decides now. There are a few ideas. You can play rook d8. He goes bishop f8. And Gukesh goes pawn to b3. Gukesh is going for this queenside expansion plan that we spoke about with a3 and b4. He does play it. The first game itself looks super intense. You can see the hall has a lot of reporters and people who have come in because it's a big encounter. And now Jan Krzysztof taking his time. He's actually gone down below on the clock as compared to Gukesh. And that's good news for Gukesh. He hasn't been traditionally known for his rapid and blitz. Pawn takes pawn. Now you could take with the knight. Then trades are generally good for Black because he's low on space. So the better idea is to take with the c pawn. And he takes cd. And then the knight could sit on the b5 square, rook c8. Maybe now a4 is a very interesting move. Gukesh is thinking a bit. He goes rook e3, taking control of the d3 square, also defending the knight. Goes queen to d7 with the idea of b5, b4. And Gukesh, how do you stop it? Maybe a4 makes a lot of sense. He does play it. a4 on the board, stopping b5, securing the square for his knight here. And now bishop to e7 played by Duda. Oh, this is a typical plan. You go bishop d8 and then put your bishop on b6 and the bishop looks really good on that diagonal. Gukesh taking his time goes queen f1. Now very interesting idea by Gukesh because He wants to go h4, bishop h3 with the support of the queen, pop out on this diagonal. That's the plan. But will that be successful is the question. The best move here for black is to take bishop takes f3. Duda down to a minute on the clock. Needs to be careful here. Plays his knight to e8. And now h4 is a good idea. There's also this knight d2 to c4 plan, which is very strong. So many good possibilities. Also bishop a3, developing the bishop from this diagonal. Also Gukesh taking his time, wanting to make good use of the 3 minutes that they have. And also Gukesh now runs down below a minute on the clock. Oof. He goes bishop d2 with just 48 seconds. Can Duda continue his bishop journey? He goes with the knight, continues the knight journey to c7. h4 played with the idea of popping out the bishop on this diagonal. But the black bishop will always be there to block. So black doesn't have to worry so much about it. Rook b8 played. Angling for the b5 move. Still interesting how Duda is playing this position. And Gukesh goes bishop h3, attacking the queen. Bishop comes out to g4, takes. Queen takes g4. And already black has some threats here. So Gukesh has to remain careful. If his knight moves away, the bishop takes h4 move should not be underestimated. Gukesh hesitating a lot. Plays b4, not the best move. Down to 20 seconds. The reason why this move is not so good is because now the rook on a8 gets activated. Rook takes b4 by Gukesh. Gukesh is saying on the flip side, I do get pressure on the b7 pawn. Now, let's see how this game continues. He goes rook a6. Knight comes back to e1. Wants to put the knight on d3. He takes on h4. And that's a move which Gukesh might have missed. Oh my god. Gukesh is in big trouble here. He goes queen e2, offering a trade of queens. After queen takes, rook takes, bishop d8. Black should be better, but Duda wants to keep the queens. He goes queen g6. And Gukesh brings his knight out, offering a trade there. Bishop attacks the rook. Rook slides over. Some trades happening now. Takes on d3, takes the bishop. Rook takes d2, also played. Somehow Gukesh has managed to stabilize the position, putting pressure on b7, f5. He goes queen e3, attacking the rook. The rook goes back. He takes on f5, queen f5. Rook takes b7, takes here. The knight is hanging. The knight goes back. And the position is even now. He plays queen to b6. Rook goes to c8. Gukesh is in trouble. His knight is attacked. He comes back. Knight f6. Look at Duda's speed. Pretty quick there. Rook b4 played. Trying to control the knight on f6. And h5 played. He goes knight to e4. And he takes on d5. But queen b3 found by Gukesh in a flash. And now the knight is pinned. He's losing the knight. Check. King moves up. And Gukesh is winning here. He wins the knight. First game goes to Domaraju Gukesh. 1-0 for the world champion. And Gukesh is like, I could hear something from the crowd. Or there's something. And maybe that disturbed him. But a good win for Gukesh in game number 1. It's time for the game number 2 to begin very shortly. We have 6 games and Gukesh wants it to be a little bit more quiet there. With Gukesh having a 1-0 lead in the match, it's now time for game number 2. Gukesh comes to the board, puts his jacket on, Duda as well, a handshake there, and we are about to get going. This time Gukesh has the black pieces, Duda is white. 3 minutes plus 2 seconds increment, e4, e5, knight f3, knight goes to c6, knight c3, knight f6, bishop b5, the 4 knights, and Gukesh goes bishop d6. Now this move is playable because when you take on c6, I can take back with my d pawn, and then the bishop on d6 makes a lot of sense. So you can see that Duda is not going to take this knight easily. Here Gukesh makes space for his bishop to go back to f8. h3 played here, and now the knight jumps into d4. The bishop comes back, and maybe another idea is to go c6, bishop c7 and d5. That's also very powerful. I mean, instead of bishop f8. And yes, c6 on the board. Let's see what Duda comes up with here. He goes short castles. Now black. How is black going to progress here? I think the most natural move is to drop the bishop back. Gukesh is taking a bit too much time in the opening. He's already down to 2 minutes 30 seconds. h6 played. Duda goes back, bishop h4. And now, not a bad idea is to play g5 here. It's a completely playable idea. But Gukesh, I mean, d5 is not possible because of this pin. But maybe g5, bishop goes back, take on f3 and then try for something. Yes, he goes g5. Bold play there by Gukesh. Now the bishop comes back to g3. Putting pressure here in the center. And now a very interesting idea is to play against this bishop. So knight takes, queen takes, d6, king g7. Make sure that this bishop can't get activated. That's very plausible way to play. But Gukesh goes for the more active thrust, d5 there. And if e takes d5, there's c takes d5 possible. Duda is thinking now. Gukesh down to 1 minute 48 seconds. He's calculating. Let's say bishop pawn takes, pawn takes. Now where can my bishop go? Maybe I can take knight takes d4. Bishop takes, knight b5. Okay, many calculations there. But he takes on d5. Gukesh, no, he goes bishop a2, knight takes f3, queen takes f3. And Gukesh plays pawn to d4. A big advantage for Gukesh here with black pieces. That's good news for him. And Duda is unhappy because his knight has to retreat, and also the threat is g4, which is extremely powerful. Look at this move. g4, if you take bishop g4 and queen is trapped. Insane. He plays g4. Duda has to go back. Queen e2. Now Gukesh wins a pawn. G takes h3. Incredible how Gukesh has gotten a great position. Bishop h4, pinning the knight. Duda, super tricky. And I mean, who better than Gukesh to know this? The man who has played 300 plus games with Duda before his world championship match. So Gukesh does know he has to be careful here. H takes g2, good move. And now king takes on g2. And here the best move is king h7. Clearing off the g file for the rook. Yes, bishop takes f7 is a problem. So let's say king here, bishop f7. But then you can play rook f8. and it should be completely fine. Or queen d7, also very interesting move, threatening a check here. So with all these possibilities, king h7 is what Gukesh has to go for, but he has 1 minute, almost now a minute on the clock. He needs to speed up. Let's go, Gukesh. Can't be thinking so much. Goes king h8. Maybe not the most accurate move, but 47 seconds only left. I think Gukesh has calculated that after bishop f7, rook f8, this is an excellent position for him. He can move the queen out. So taking the pawn on f7 is not a good idea. Maybe there's queen f3, pinning the knight here on f6 square. That seems like a possible move. He goes rook h1, opening up the rook on the h file. Rook g8, king f1 played. And once again, Gukesh under some pressure here because his opponent has more time on the clock. Although Gukesh's position is fine, this pin is super irritating. He goes bishop g4, good move, with just 21 seconds. Duda has 1 minute 5 seconds. And Gukesh is thinking now that he seems to be doing well. Just Duda has time advantage. His position isn't particularly great. If you play f3, Gukesh will go back, but goes queen d2, attacking the h6 pawn. He goes king h7. Now there's a trap. Takes, bishop f6, but king goes here and then it equalizes. So instead he goes bishop g5, but that's a mistake now because Gukesh has a strong move h5. Finds it. Bishop takes f7 played, and he takes on e4, a big mistake. Queen d7 was much better, attacking the bishop. But taking here, takes on g8. Gukesh takes with the queen. The position is still around even. Gukesh has chances to come back. Queen g6 was much better to attack here. But rook f8, 13 seconds for Gukesh, almost 10 seconds for Duda. He goes rook g1. Queen comes up to g6. He could have played bishop a5. What an insane move to deflect the queen. a4, and he plays rook to f3. But rook a3, excellent move here by Duda. Gukesh dropping the pieces but not pressing the clock there. Taking on f3, queen takes f3, taken. Queen d3 offering a trade, and now the queens are traded. Gukesh is down material. He's actually a full rook down. Oh my god, a full rook down in the position. Bishop h4 with just a second on the clock. Knight takes f3, bishop takes, and rook g5. So Duda sacrificing one piece in order to maybe save his position, but now he's losing here. Gukesh is losing. Bishop b4 check. I think could be some drawing chances though. King here, rook f4, good move, and he's able to chop off a pawn. Bishop comes back, and Duda goes b3. The king moves up. Bishop g3, he goes bishop c5, doesn't want to trade. Plays rook f4. Again attacking the rook. The rook goes to the center. And the rook enters in. Rook to d7. King g4 played. And now step by step, Duda is converting this into a full point. He goes king e2. The rook is just too strong. Bishop e5. Hardly any squares left for the king. Bishop c2, takes the pawn on b7, king g4 played. And pawn to f3, king f5, bishop goes back to h2, a5, king d2, bishop b1, and rook to d7 played. Comes back, rook c7, bishop b4 check. And he is now winning by a big margin here, Duda. He has a lot of pawns. He's also an exchange up. And this he will not botch up. Rook h5, bishop e1, bishop f4. And rook d5. Goes bishop f1, king d1. The bishop drops back and check. And Gukesh resigns. Duda scores the win to equalize the score. It's 1-1. Gukesh had a great chance to win this game, but it was not to be. There was a very complicated moment in the game which could have given Gukesh the victory if he had found it, but with less time it wasn't easy. Let's have a look at that key moment. The key moment was reached in this position where Duda took the pawn with bishop takes f7 and Gukesh went knight takes pawn. This turned around the position. The winning move here for black was a very nice queen d7. Even queen d6 is a simple move coming out of the pin, giving up the exchange, and I think black would have done well. But queen d7 is more flashy because after bishop takes rook, it's rook takes. You give up the knight, and now this incredible move bishop f3 hitting the rook, so that after rook h2 you have queen g4 threatening a mate and there is no way to stop it. Let's say if king e1 trying to run here, but you don't take the knight, I still go bishop f3, rook g1, and king comes out here. The h pawn is going down. It was too tough a variation to find it in just under a minute. It's time for game number 3 here with Gukesh and Duda. The score stands 1-1 between both the players. Gukesh now has the white pieces. He did start off with a win, but Duda immediately struck back. The arbiter comes in, starts the clock, and off we go. Knight to f3, knight f6, pawn moves ahead. We have the similar opening as in the first game, and I believe Gukesh would be pretty happy with this. He goes g3 this time, and I think this line is much more interesting. I mean, in the first game the bishop was on e2, and if you remember, Gukesh then maneuvered it back to g2, so perhaps Gukesh felt like it's better to just start from there. Now pawn comes up to c6. He goes pawn to e4, grabbing a lot of space in the center. Rook e1 played, white's position for choice. a6 played by Duda. And Gukesh pushes the pawn ahead with d5. Now Jan Krzysztof can think about taking here, can also think about closing down the position or to ignore it. Not a simple decision though. Here he takes on d5 and pawn takes by Gukesh. b5 played. This does weaken the c6 square, but Duda is like, he's asking Gukesh, where is your knight coming from? And now the bishop on g2 is blocked by its own pawns. It can remaneuver this way. You could potentially break the position with a4. Many possibilities for Gukesh here. Thinking about it, he goes pawn to b4. And his idea here is pawn to a4. Knight comes out to b6. And now, yes, pawn to a4 played. So Gukesh putting pressure on the b5 point. He wants to take on a8, and then b5 pawn is hanging. So Duda must remain careful here. Bishop d7, maybe. Then can we get more space? With a5, he goes bishop d7, and now Gukesh takes on b5. A takes b5. And let's see, what do you do about this tension here? He goes bishop g5, defending his rook, also pinning the knight, a good move. And one idea for Duda here is go knight a4, blocking the a file, also questioning this. If you take here, I take ba, with my bishop supporting the a4 point, I do get a passer. And Duda thinking a bit here. He finds knight a4, he plays it, good move. And for Gukesh, does he want to change the structure by taking? Does he want to play queen d3, just keeping the position? He plays his queen to d3. And there is a small trap here to take the pawn on b5. So need to be careful here as Jan Krzysztof. He takes on c3, queen takes on c3. Both sides have small problems, yeah, in this position. The bishop here is not so great, the bishop on f8 is not so great, so he goes bishop e7. Maybe trying for some tactics like knight takes d5, unleashing an attack on the bishop. If you take on e7, I'll take back knight e7. So Gukesh thinking here, he goes queen d3 and putting pressure on the b5 pawn. He plays his pawn to h6, and now taking on f6 should be possible, but he goes back bd2, keeping the bishop pair on the board. And now queen to b6. Black position feels slightly easier to play. Bishop e3, attacking the queen. Queen comes back to b7. Also, time-wise, Gukesh has a small lead on the clock. He has 1 hour, 1 minute, 27 seconds, while Duda has 57 seconds. Rook a4, interesting move, attacking the b4 pawn. Knight comes to d2. And actually you can take here, but then there's rook a7 that you have to contend with. Queen c8 is playable. Will Gukesh have to find compensation after the pawn is captured? Yes. Duda is brave. He's like, I don't see the compensation here. But there is. I mean, rook coming into a7 means something. It is putting pressure here. If you had rook c1 here, it would have been very strong. But somehow the rook would be undefended. So rook e1 seems possible. And the extra time that Gukesh has here, he's investing it at this point. Thinking. Time is ticking. Rook a1, 48 seconds for Gukesh, 39 for Duda. Rook a4, blocking the rooks. I don't know if here white can launch an attack. For example, rook takes rook, pawn takes g4, g5. Could be an idea, could be, potentially. But Gukesh needs to move. He goes king h2 with just 31 seconds. And Duda has an extra pawn now. It's not so clear how Gukesh will get back that pawn. For that pawn, he does have compensation in the form of play. But look at Duda here. He goes down to 20 seconds himself. Plays queen to b8. He's slowly and steadily wriggling himself out of complete strangulation. Knight b3, rook c8. And rook comes to a6. And now knight to a5, knight c6 could be an idea. Bishop goes to d8. And knight jumps in, knight to a5. He takes with the bishop, rook takes on a5. Pawn to b4 played. And Duda's b pawn is super strong. He comes back rook a2, but now rook c3. Black pieces just flooding into white camp. Queen a6. Gukesh trying to remain active here, but the b pawn is super strong. b3 played. Just 2 seconds on the clock there for Duda. Rook c2. He's offering a trade. It takes, pawn takes, just one step away from queening. The queen comes back to stop the pawn. Queen b1, threatening to queen, not yet. The square is guarded. He gives up this pawn. And now bishop d3. What a nice tactic there by Duda. If bishop f2, I'm going to queen. Otherwise, there's a mate. Beautiful chess. Gukesh loses on time. Jan Krzysztof Duda scores another win. 2-1 is the score. He did have a slight difficult position out of the opening, but the way Duda played, it feels like he understands his opponent very well and he knows the positions that he is uncomfortable in. With that, Duda takes the lead as we enter the fourth game of the match. Score now stands 2-1 in the favor of Jan Krzysztof Duda. 2 wins in a row, and Gukesh now has to strike back. If Duda reaches 3 points, then he would be almost half a point away from winning the match. He sits down, adjusts himself in the chair, and he has the white pieces now. Gukesh has black, and the game is about to begin. The players are ready. A handshake and d4. Knight comes out to f6, knight f3. Gukesh plays his pawn to d5. We have g3 played here, g6, and it's the symmetrical variation. Pawn to c4 by Jan Krzysztof, c6. And Gukesh goes for this solid line, which is a mixture of the Grunfeld and the Slav. b3, getting the bishop out from b2. And a very typical idea now is to play a5, a4. He pushes his pawn to a5. And Duda pauses a bit. Knight c3, stopping a4 is definitely a plan. He goes e3, a very solid move. And Gukesh is thinking about his next move here. He pushes his pawn to a4. Bishop comes out to a3. Now the bishop is very well positioned on this diagonal. And knight jumps into e4. The knight is looking at squares like c3. And Duda is slightly better if he plays his knight to d2, so that this square is covered and he challenges the knight on e4, but he goes knight pd2. He sees that knight c3 is not really a problem because of queen c2. And so here bishop f5 played by Gukesh, defending the knight in the center. This all looks pretty normal and natural here. And now Duda plays queen to c1. Interesting move. Not so sure about what he's doing with the queen there. Maybe just defending the bishop. Knight goes to d7. Gukesh finishing his development there. And the knight goes to h4. Attacking the bishop here. And Gukesh can now take on d2. Because taking on f5 would be wrong, as knight takes f1 is hanging. So you'll have to take on d2 and then you can play your bishop back to e6. That seems like a fair way to continue. Gukesh plays it, knight takes d2. And Duda must take the knight, because if he goes knight f5, knight f1, knight g7, king g7, and then your exchange down, so he takes. Bishop e6. That's the right way to continue. Now the d5 pawn has been defended. Duda goes rook to c1. Brings his rook on the c file. He's hoping to take and then take control over the c file. Gukesh has 2 minutes on the clock. Duda has 1 minute 57 seconds. Both players calmly thinking here. This game has started off pretty slowly, but I'm pretty sure there are many fireworks to be seen. He takes on b3. Duda takes back, defending the bishop on a3. And now pawn takes pawn, and knight to b6. Very interesting play by Gukesh. He's attacking the pawn on c4 with his bishop and knight. Now this pawn can be defended with bishop f1, but you can also push it forward, but that would lead to knight c4, attacking the queen and the bishop. So a lot to assess here for Jan Krzysztof, whether he should go for this line or not. Because at the end of it, let's imagine this variation: c5, knight c4, queen b4, knight a3, rook a3, rook a3, queen a3. The b7 pawn does become a weakness. And so he pushes his pawn to c5. Knight does jump here, queen b4. I think Duda is convinced that that final position should be okay for him. I have to continue here. Takes on a3, rook a3, rook takes, queen takes. We have this exchanges, and the question is who's better here? bd5. He trades off this bishop, and I think if you can get e5 move here, that would definitely mean something, because then you are either creating a weakness on d4 or the c5 pawn becomes weak. Queen b4, putting pressure on b7. This is the pawn that we said is potentially very, very backward and weak. So let's see how Gukesh deals with it. He takes on g2. If knight takes g2 or king takes g2 should be played here. Duda is taking his time for this decision, because he must decide whether the knight goes from here to a better square or knight goes back from here. Knight takes g2, queen d7. Defending the pawn here, rook b1, rook b8 played, and now e5 is on the card. So maybe f4 to stop e5 could be a very good idea. He plays it, f4. Queen comes into d5. Well, somehow Duda has managed to outwit Gukesh here. Like, let's say queen a4 with the idea of going queen a7. b7 is weak, but at the same time, if you think about it, the white king is slightly weak here as well. So if somehow you can open up the position, then it could be nice. Rook a1 played with the idea of going rook to a7. Maybe slightly slow there. Gukesh, by the way, has 45 seconds. Duda down to 15 seconds. The Polish Grandmaster has to speed up, while Gukesh has some time to think over what to do. Maybe there's g5 to break through, or f6. He goes queen e4, queen b1, offering a queen trade. Taking the queen might lead to a sad endgame, so he comes back, which is interesting. h4 played, and h5. He goes king h2. And Gukesh comes back. He wants to play b5, but now f5 is very strong. Just breaking through on the king side. It's a very powerful move, but Duda plays rook a7. b6 by Gukesh. He gets the break in, he gets rid of this weakness, attacks the queen, gets his rook active. Queen a2 played, and now queen d6, maybe just getting the queen activated. Rook b8 goes back, queen comes up, now queen d6, rook a6, attacking this pawn. Rook c8, he's coming in with his knight.
Bishop comes out. Knight to d3. The position is even, but white's position seems easier to play. But Gukesh is going for an attack here. Knight to c5. He goes queen f5. Queen comes back. And now rook takes the open file. He chops off the pawn. Queen d5. The position is still dynamically balanced. Do you want to trade queens? Duda super quick to find such moves. No, he doesn't trade. The game is super well played by both the players until now. Knight takes. He takes with the pawn. Now white is a pawn up. Gukesh goes queen b5. The position is still even. Queen b1 threatening rook b2. Rook comes back to c2. Rook b3 played. And now rook d2. He must go queen e1. Somehow counterplay. He needs. But he comes back rook b8. But that's passive. Oh, he loses on time in this position, which was equalish. Well, Gukesh definitely had his chances there in the end. But once you go passive, the white pawn would simply move ahead. With this, Duda now leading the match 3-1. Gukesh has to win the remaining 2 blitz games to equalize the score. A super critical game now. 5th game in the match between Duda and Gukesh. Gukesh came early to the board, spent some time calming himself down. He has the white pieces. Duda has scored 3 wins in a row. The arbiter comes in, starts the clock, handshake, and off we go. Knight to f3 by Gukesh, pawn d5, and he plays c4, e6, and we have the Catalan here on the board if Gukesh does play d4, or else this will remain an English. Oh, d4 played by Duda. Slightly ambitious there. Knight comes out to c6. d3 played. And now bishop to e7. How should Gukesh continue? e3 seems like a fair idea. Like here, he goes e3, attacking the center. If you take, I simply take back with the bishop with a good position. He does it, takes the pawn back. And now e5, trying to stop d4. Knight comes out to c3. He castles quickly. And now d4 seems like a possibility, but after multiple trades, it leads to an equalish position after c6. So Gukesh goes queen d2. And maybe knight g4 is a nice move here, getting rid of this bishop on e3, which is a strong piece. Duda has 2 minutes 49 seconds. Gukesh 2 minutes 44 seconds here. And bishop comes out to f5. The rook comes to d1, attacking the pawn here. Gukesh defending it. Once again, preparing d4 in the right circumstances. Duda comes up, queen d7. And maybe now it's a better moment to play d4. The reason for that is that after takes, by the way, Gukesh does not want all those takes. He goes rook f e1, trying to improve the position. But now maybe bg4, pinning the knight, and so that d4 is not possible. Also, we just saw knight g4 to be a good move. Rook a d8 seems also fair. Just putting the rook on the semi-open file for black. I think that does make a lot of sense. So rook a d8. Yes, Duda plays it. Rook a d8 on the board. And finally, Gukesh breaks in the center, takes, knight takes. You must take the knight and now take with the queen or the bishop. He takes with the queen, offering a trade. Now queen takes queen also seems very normal. So the best way could be take, maybe bishop takes. Now this is hanging here. Oops, sorry, rook e7 is hanging. But you have maybe bishop g4. But yeah, I mean, slight discomfort, right? Like after takes, this unnecessarily, this bishop is hanging, the pawn is hanging. So Duda has some questions to answer here, which is why he's taking his time. He's not rushing into this decision. I love how white's bishops are so nicely positioned against the black's pawns on the queen side. And Duda plays the move b6. Oof, that's not a good move actually. It changes everything now, because after rook queen takes, rook takes, rook takes, knight takes, I can simply chop on b6 and take the bishop on e7. Gukesh takes, queen takes queen. Now what is Duda going to do here? Is he going in for this approach? To take with the rook, or to take with the bishop, or to take with the knight? None of these moves are good, and I believe Gukesh is feeling confident now. He takes with the knight. Now bishop b6 is good, but bishop f4 even stronger, looking here and here. This is getting very nasty for Duda. I don't know how he will manage to save the position. It's really bad. And Duda goes bishop b4, attacking the knight here on c3. And also the time, Duda has only 20 seconds on the clock, while Gukesh has 1 minute 58 seconds. So everything is in Gukesh's favor. He takes the pawn, rook c8, and comes back bd6, offering a trade here. And I think this works out pretty well, because after takes, bishop takes, he takes the pawn, but now this very strong move, rook e7, going to the 7th rank and then picking up the pawn on a7 should be very good. So Duda goes knight d5 by Gukesh very quickly, bishop e6, but knight e7 check, good move. King h8, and now the best move is rook e d1, keeping control. And if the knight moves, you have rook d8, it becomes really difficult for black to handle this. Gukesh could very well be tempted by taking the bishop and taking the knight. 2 pieces for a rook is a good bargain. But on the other hand, the black rook gets activated. Oh, he takes it. Check. Bishop f1, he takes back, and rook takes d7. The problem now is that the black rooks are super active. f2 is attacked. Okay, you have to play f4. Yes, he plays it. And you can't really activate here with e5, because bishop d3 could be very strong. So he plays rook takes b2. Gukesh chops off a pawn, g6 played. And now the problem here for Gukesh is, while his position is excellent, his back rank is weak. So if the rook gets in, it could be trouble. But meanwhile, the black king is also weak. So knight c6, good move. Rook c8, and now knight to e5. Well played. Rook goes to c2. Now knight g4, trying to defend h2. Here would be a very good move. Let's see if Gukesh plays it. Gukesh's time running low. He's down to 40 seconds, but Duda has only 8 seconds. If Gukesh can keep that lead on the clock, that would really ease out things for him. The nice thing about knight g4 is that it also threatens knight f6 and then mate. He does play knight g4. And king goes to g8, check. King f8, you can pick up this pawn, another pawn in the bag. Why not with a check? a4. Rook goes to c1. Rook takes, knight takes h7. King e8, check again. Gukesh, of course, is a bit worried that his bishop could get lost after rook b1. Rook d7 and rook d3 to f3 might be a good idea. No, he goes knight g4, not a good move. Rook e1, great move, trying to stop here, but maybe it's king c7, he goes h4, and he brings his knight back to h2 to defend. I think Gukesh totally winning now. Knight f3, He goes rook e3. That was not needed. Rook e2. Duda so quick with his moves. Bishop h3 played. Rook e3 again, attacking here. He can take a draw with bishop g2, but he doesn't want a draw. He needs to win to come back in the match. King f1. Rook check. King e1. Rook g2, attacking g3. Oh, king f1 forced. No, he goes king d1, gets checkmated. Gukesh, so unhappy there. He had a smile on his face, but of course there is more out of the fact that he missed this mate in one here on d1, and Duda won this match. He has 4-1 as a score, and Gukesh was trying to sort of dominate this game, and I think he was clearly better here. Just got outplayed in the time scramble, and Duda is much faster between the two. He's also much more resourceful, and I believe this experience will come in handy for Gukesh. For now, Duda has won this game. The players are analyzing, which is nice to see, so there's nothing really personal when you lose here. It's just trying to get to know where you could have done better, and now the pieces are being placed back. The last game will be played, the 6th game, but the winner is already, the winner of this exhibition match is already decided. Duda is leading 4-1. We will check out the final game. It's the final game of the match between Gukesh and Duda now. The score stands 4-1 in the favor of Jan Krzysztof Duda. He's already won the match, but it would always be a nice feeling if you ended on a victory note for Gukesh. That's why this game is important. He has the black pieces now. Duda has white. The arbiter comes in to start the clock, and off we go. A handshake. Knight comes out to f3, pawn to d5. g3 played here by Duda, pawn to c5. And now bishop g2, knight comes out, castles, pawn g6 played by Gukesh. And Duda pauses a bit here. He plays his pawn to c4, and Gukesh quickly goes bishop g7. I guess you can take the pawn in the center, or you can even push your pawn to d4. He goes takes, knight takes d5, pawn to d4 played, and Gukesh can now take here on d4. It would be symmetry. He castles, but this does allow white to win a pawn with d takes on c5. So thinking about it here, Duda, will he take the pawn on c5 or not? No, he goes e4. He breaks in the center, and the knight has to move away from d5. Where will the knight go? So the knight goes to f6, pawn to e5, and knight d5 played. He takes here on c5, knight comes out to c6. So Duda is a pawn up, but both these pawns are slightly weak. Knight e5 is hanging right now. You can defend it with something like rook e1 possibly, but then you have to worry about knight b4 threatening to take, and then the knight jumping into c2. So these are definite worries here for Duda. He goes a3, and his point is you can't take here, because after take the knight on d5 is hanging. So bishop g4 played by Gukesh very quickly. h3, asking a question to the bishop. Bishop takes the knight, and I think what Gukesh is planning is, after queen takes or bishop takes, he wants to play e6, just solidify the knight here, and next move pick up the pawn on e5. So Duda is just thinking about with which piece to recapture. He takes it with the queen, and very quickly e6 is played. So very interesting position has arisen with this very stable knight on d5, and white having the bishop pair. Duda plays rook a2, and his idea is clear. He wants to go b4 and get the rook out of this long diagonal. Black can take knight takes e5 here. He plays a5, stopping the pawn from coming forward. Now knight c3. I like how Duda is doing this. He's going to take here on c3, and then he takes first on e5, queen e2, and now Gukesh takes, pawn takes. It feels like black has equal material, the structure is bad, but the problem now is that the b7 pawn is weak, and c5 pawn I think you can defend, right, with bishop e3. Just defend this, and yes, they are doubled, they are isolated, but they are not weak actually. It's difficult to attack them. So Duda plays rook b2, another nice move, because if you play queen takes c5, he wants to play rook b5 and attack it this way. Just amazing how he's so tactically aware. Bishop f4 can cause a lot of pain. So with such moves, you start doubting yourself as Gukesh, because what to do? Should I defend my pawn on b7? Should I take the pawn on c5? These are few options here that you have. And already Duda is significantly better here. It's a very big, I think very instructive, this position. And I think Gukesh is calculating this line with queen c5, rook b5. Can I go somewhere? Queen c7 or d6, but then bishop f4, pinning here, f6. Don't like it. But look at the time on the clock. Duda has a minute. Gukesh was really quick, by the way. And I think this is what Gukesh has been able to do. He has been quick on the clock, but then at some point he slows down a bit, and then it all becomes even at the end, and then he blunders because he's not used to playing under time trouble. A long think now. Gukesh had 2 minutes 17 seconds before this move, and now with this long think he comes down to 48 seconds. That's insanely long. I think 1.5 minutes he thought. And Duda is so quick. He just says like, Gukesh, your position didn't even improve here. So I'm just very happy with what has happened here for Duda. Rook b1, doubling the rooks on the b file. Gukesh defends. Queen comes up to c4, and before you know it, white's position is super dominant now. One idea is just rook b6 and queen b3, and the b7 pawn becomes super weak. So bishop f8. I'm not sure what Gukesh is hoping for here. Duda goes for the aforementioned plan, rook c8. And now, this bishop d5 move is one, a4 is one, h4, h5 is one more. So many possible ideas for Duda. He goes bishop to d5. Knight d8 played, and rook 1 b5. Duda playing so easily these moves. So powerful. h4 is just blitz 101. Yeah, Duda has been playing this since he was a young kid. h5 played, trying to break open the king side. Goes king g7. And queen to e4, just bringing the queen in, and f6 played. He pushes the pawn to h6, king h8, and rook takes f6 falls. Well, everything's falling apart. Knight c6. There's just rook takes c6 followed by queen e5 check, that is winning. He takes with the bishop here. Yeah, and that's almost resignation time. As e5 is hanging, Gukesh resigns. Duda wins his 5th game in a row. 5-1 is the score for this exhibition match. Well, of course, for Gukesh, a tough loss to digest. But then again, it's all great learning for him and Duda. Just analyzing, for him, it's a very nice victory. It was a fun exhibition match sponsored by Mokate in Katowice. However, when two top players are playing with each other, there are always stakes. There are always, you don't want to be losing the game. And so I'm pretty sure that for Gukesh it was a bit painful here, but he is in Poland to do much more. He will be going to another event later in the day or the next day for kids tournament. He'll be giving a simul, like a true ambassador of the game, a world champion there. He is doing his bit to promote the game and to take it to more people, not just in India but across the world. So hats off to Gukesh for that. We did interview Duda after the win. Aditya Surroy from ChessBase India was there, and let's hear what Duda had to say.
Duda, what an amazing performance, 5-1 in this match. Were you expecting a score like this?
Well, I hadn't really expected, anything before. I just wanted to play, interesting chess and hopefully good. I don't think it was very high quality in terms of, engine evaluations, but certainly entertaining, and I think 5-1 is like too high. In general, when you are chasing, the result, you are risking more and it can backfire. Also, I don't think Gukesh would have ever lost this next to the last round. He was just trying to look for a win and blunder checkmate in one move. So yeah, so that was a gift. And well, in general, yeah, it was quite interesting. And I was also kind of surprised because I checked a little bit, the games with the engine, and some of the moves which felt, very natural or very nice actually, were like blunders, and it was like, in 3 games in a row or something, like the most natural move, or tricky if your opponent was just bad. Like, for instance, taking the rook in the second game, it's crazy, like I was rook up and I wasn't better even, and then I misplayed it and even was worse. So yeah, so it's interesting.
You have helped Gukesh in the World Championship match, and you share a bond. It was very evident that after the match ended, you guys were like talking and smiling. It was so heartwarming to see. When you were proposed this match, what were your thoughts?
I wanted to play. Why not? I'm always up for some blitz, some blitz chess, blitz in particular, and yeah, and I knew before that. Gukesh will be in Poland, so would be in Poland. So yeah, I was actually quite excited about it, and yeah, and but first and foremost, I was just looking, for this entertaining element, and yeah, I think we did great in that aspect.
Right. You are a blitz monster. Everybody knows that, and playing here in front of your home crowd. And in the format you love and you play well, were you in any kind of pressure at any point of time?
No, the game were anything but easy. Like, of course I was under pressure, especially when I lost the first round. I was very upset because I had a safe position. It appeared so, and I lost in 2 moves, one move even. So. Yeah, and of course, the second game was a roller coaster. Basically, it could have also ended it, badly for me. And then, being 0-2 is different, right? Than 1-1, obviously. So yeah, of course, I felt some pressure, but in blitz, it's relatively mild, I would say. Still, comparing, to classical chess or, very, very strong events. Like, I mean, maybe not matches. I mean, other formats, yeah, like knockout events, for instance. Yeah.
Would you like to share a bit about your like relationship with Gukesh, how it has grown till now? Are you enjoying the partnership that you are having?
Yeah, so mostly I have always been a sparring partner. So we play like 350 games or something.
Oh.
Online, mostly before the match, his match versus Ingrid. Yeah, on a friendly basis. I was also on several his camps in Warsaw. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a colleague, you know. I mean, why not?
Well, amazing, Duda. What a performance, and congratulations, and all the very best for the future events.
Thank you.